Welcome back to another episode of the Mind Mountain podcast. This is the podcast that delves deep into the mental performance side of mountain biking with interesting guests from across our sport so that you guys, the listener, can learn tools, tips, and tactics to help you have more fun out on the trails more often. Today on the podcast, we've got Lewis Brindley. Lewis is the founder of Adventure Fuel, a bike guide and lover of all things two wheels. Originally from the UK, Lewis spent years bikepacking the world before settling in New Zealand, where he's built a life in the outdoors, riding the length of the country and creating a career showcasing the best of New Zealand to riders from around the world. Now guiding with Adventure South, Lewis brings a unique blend of storytelling, coaching, and real-world experience from years of exploring some of the country's best and most remote terrain. Today, we're going to dive into his journey and unpack the mindset, the lessons, and the philosophy he's developed along the way, as well as take a look at why New Zealand is truly world-class for mountain biking and why our NZ mountain bike expedition is such a powerful way to experience it. Lewis, with no further ado, welcome to the podcast.
Cheers, man. That's quite the intro. That's great.
Did I miss anything there?
No, that's good. That's good. It's better than my resume. That's great.
Okay, there we go. You're welcome to take that. Man, this is awesome to have you here. I feel like it's been a bit of a long time in the making. We met when you were over in this hemisphere last year, got chatting and kind of realized there was so many common threads.
Yeah. And that was when it seemed like you were just on the working out the New Zealand expedition. It was sort of on the cards. We kind of managed to push that over the line, which is awesome.
Yeah, I feel like meeting you was one of those things, right place, right time. And I was looking for a partner down in New Zealand who was like shared that same kind of, by riders, for riders vibe and could deliver everything I had in mind and kind of share that vision. So it was really cool chatting with you. And I guess maybe towards the end of this conversation, we can talk and tell our listeners a little bit more about what we've got created.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
To start with, though, I always like to wind back the clock a little bit so that we can get to know you some more. I'd love to hear the story. How did you first get into mountain biking?
So it's actually kind of a funny one. So I BMX'd some stuff as a kid, not particularly well, but rode a fair bit. And then got to Queenstown, and one of my friends was, he's like, "Oh, you want to go mountain biking?" And it was just that absolute baptism of fire. He's like, "Yeah, you take my bike. This is what we're riding." And it was, it's a trail that's closed now, but it was a black run down the Remarkables. And he was just like, "Oh yeah, have a go at this." And I just went off on his bike, and it, all left me behind. I was just crashing left, right, and center. But I just remember like that night being at home pulling the Madagascar spines, which is like a spiky bush we have here in New Zealand, pulling the spines out of my legs. Like, I need to buy a bike. Like that is sick. And that was it. So I was just like, right, I'm saving up to buy a bike now. Like this is it. So, and then after that, I did 2 seasons in Queenstown. Then headed over, chasing summer over to Canada, and did a season in Whistler, and then over to France and did a season in France as well, in Morzine. And just, the bug just got me,
Man, isn't it amazing the places bikes can take us?
Yeah.
I love hearing that story because when I look at like the experience I want people to have getting into mountain biking, it can't be much opposite.
Yeah.
You kind of had like this horrible experience where someone took you down a really hard trail, you fell off, you got hurt, you had spikes in your arms, yet it was still the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So imagine how good it could be if you came on something like the experiences that are available today, where it's guided, it's coached, it's fully supported.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's day and night. And I guess it's kind of looking back to some of these misadventures I had, getting into mountain biking and even like taking my bike over to places like New Zealand for the first time. There's so much that you learn the hard way via trial and error.
Yeah.
And I think, they're funny stories to look back on, but it's kind of like, probably could have skipped that part and got straight to the fun parts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff. So from that first moment, you straight onto a hard trail, at home researching mountain biking that night, getting more into it. Is there any other kind of early memories or challenges or turning points that you can remember in your kind of mountain biking progression in those early days?
Well, I think there's that early progression. like when I was riding in New Zealand, I was just riding on my own. So I was just like, oh, I'd go out, and you can only progress so far if you don't know what other people are capable of. So you're like, oh, this is what I can ride, and you just ride it. And one of my friends once described it as all heart, no talent. It's just like you ride quite quick, but it's just sketchy to watch. It's just like there's and then when I got to Whistler, they did I think they still do it. Like you can sign up for the whole season, and you get like a lesson a week for the men's night.
Mm.
I signed up to that, and my riding just like exponentially. It just like it was incredible the difference. I was like, oh wow, okay, I am 3 times better than when I arrived in the space of 6 months of riding. It was a huge difference. So as far as a turning point, that was like game changer. Yeah.
Mm. Amazing, dude. Yeah, it is just, I feel like it's hard to comprehend the level of growth you can achieve with like good coaching and then accessing that consistently, like every week, like you're talking about, until you actually experience that exponential growth. It just feels like that kind of thing wouldn't be possible. And you get to the end of that season and it's just like, holy crap, when you look back.
Mm.
So yeah, my experience, I feel like echoes that. I was learning by trial and error, doing sketchy things as a kid and as an early adult. And then it wasn't until I actually received some mountain bike coaching in Rotorua in New Zealand that I was just like, holy crap, whole new world, just from really simple shifts in my technique and accessing that coaching consistently. It kind of, that was where I want to say I got the bug from the start, because mountain biking was fun, but it was definitely hard. It was painful. There were setbacks.
Mm.
All of a sudden, all of that hard went away and it all just became fun once I got that coaching. So yeah, really cool to hear your journey echoes that as well. And then I'm curious, on a professional level, you're maybe similar to me. You didn't land in this profession straight out of high school or, straight away. You had some turning points and some kind of other things as well. I'd love to just dive into your story a bit there, talking about the transition of what you used to do before you were a professional bike guy. There's a whole bike packing story we can go down there as well, and then get into these days to doing more mountain bike coaching and guiding. Walk me through that journey.
It's kind of it's a bit of a scattered story. Yeah, so I was a chef for a long time. I spent a lot of time traveling. And working as a chef, it's just a great job to travel with. You can always find work as a chef, but at a certain point I was like, okay, I'm done with this. It's time to do something else. I wanted to work in the outdoors. So I ended up actually working as a glacier guide over on the west coast here in New Zealand. And even that, I was like, oh, it's close, but it's not quite the right fit for me. I was like, I don't like the repeating the same story every single, 3 times a day of like, oh, this is why the ice is blue. No, that's not Mount Cook. That's a different mountain, things like that. And then just randomly, a guy who worked in the same town I lived in, he said, oh, can anyone service a bike? So I was like, oh yeah, I'll show you how to service a bike. So I went around and got chatting to him, and he's like, oh, do you know how to cook? I was like, well, yeah, I'm a professional chef. And he's just like, oh, have you ever guided? I was like, well, I used to be a glacier guide. He's like, do you want to be a bike guide? And I was like, yeah, sure, gave it a go. And it just straight away, I was like, this is the culmination of like all my skills and like what I'm good at. And because we do multi-day bike guiding here, you don't have that like surface level of like, oh, is that Mount Cook? It's not the same story over and over again. And you get to like build a relationship with the riders. And I was just like, this is literally like that culmination of everything I've built up to now. It's just like, oh, like this is it. This makes perfect sense. And yeah, so I'm on my 4th year of that now. And yeah, I'm just like, okay, let's just keep doing this. Let's keep building on that. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that when two different threads that maybe seem unrelated at the start, like the cooking and the biking, tie together. And talk about being in the right place at the right time, or like taking that opportunity and running with it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And tell us about Adventure Fuel, because I feel like that ties in those threads as well. Maybe was that the next step for you?
Yeah. So Adventure Fuel came from so initially it was just sort of the name I used when I was doing a lot of riding and exploring on my own. It's sort of my Instagram handle, I suppose would be the word. And I used it to get sponsorships and things like that for when I rode across New Zealand. I was also the 5th person to ride the Southern Highlands Traverse in the States, which is a 1,000-mile bikepacking route. But then after guiding, I was just like, oh, like maybe I should, do my own thing of what I see as sort of a bit of a niche that's not getting served, which is bikepacking. Because most people at the moment, they just go off and trial by error. And they're like, oh, I'll just learn it as I go, which, it'll get you a certain way. But I'm like, wouldn't it be great to be able to do a course of like, oh, hey, here's all my errors of thousands and thousands. I think I've got like 10,000 kilometers of bikepacking experience. It's like, hey, how would you like to learn all my mistakes here? And it'll give you that head start. And so that's been quite interesting of showing people just like, hey, you want to try bikepacking? Absolutely, you can go and give it a go yourself. But if you want to see a bit of a head start and get a bit of a firm footing before you go, so yeah, I started running 3-day courses teaching people how to bikepack. And I just did a bike mechanics course specifically for sort of on-trail bike mechanics. And that got a really good turnout as well, which was interesting. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, super cool to hear that's going well. I know from, spending a season down in Queenstown working at a bike shop, just how many mishaps and how many dreary sunburnt travelers come in with, sometimes simple things that have gone wrong, but they just either don't have the spares or they don't have the expertise to fix it themselves. They have to spend hours walking in or trying to hitchhike or whatever. So just can only imagine how invaluable those services are.
It was interesting on the mechanics course I just did. I sort of like, oh, what's your experience, folks? And all of them were like some of them had cycled the length of the country already. And every single one of them was like, oh, I've just got unlucky. Like, I don't know how to fix anything on my bike. It just happened not to have gone wrong. And I was like, wow, crazy. And then I sort of, showed them all this stuff like, oh, I feel much better now. And it's just that kind of thing of like, yeah, sure, you can give it a go yourself. But it's like, it's better if you know what you're doing.
Right. And I guess it's kind of bike mechanic skills can be a little bit like maybe first aid skills. Like we learn them hoping we'll never have to use them. It's really nice to know we've got them just in case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And talking about the mountain bike guiding, I was curious, this is probably going to be a tough question. What's one thing you love most about being a mountain bike guide in New Zealand?
Oh, it's a bit of a tricky one. The way I kind of describe it is, when you like turn to your mates, and you're just like, this is cool. Do you know what I mean? Like you're just like, a great example is, sort of where we'll be staying on the bike expedition in Porter's Pass. You sort of wake up in the lodge there, you're looking out the window, and last time we were there, it's just like dawn was breaking. There's like this mist, we're like right in the hills, and we're riding straight from the door. And you look at each other like, this is cool. Do you know what I mean? Like this is, and then to do that as a job, you're like, hey, I get to show other people that, and they're like, this is sick. I'm like, yeah, this is sick. You're right, it is.
I love that, man. It's almost more of a feeling, isn't it? Like those goosebumps moments when you're just like, this is just too good to be true.
Yeah.
And knowing that you get to do that for like 9 more days after that every day.
It's
a really special experience to be able to facilitate. And speaking of Porter's Lodge, I think the other thing that's crazy about that place is that you're in Christchurch like a day before. Maybe you've flown in from the States, Canada, Australia, wherever else like the day before. And then it's like day 2 of the guided trip or the expedition. And it's like you're in the middle of nowhere. These world-class trails up above the clouds and able to see nothing but alpine mountains. Yeah. It's pretty special.
Yeah, and it's just that variety, I think, is what makes a part of the riding in New Zealand so good. It's like that first day we're in Cap and you're like, oh, this is like a volcanic rock roll. It's like it literally looks like cooled lava, because that is basically what it is. And you're like, whoa, we're like riding on this basalt. And then 24 hours later, you're riding like native beech forest. You're like, that is a pretty massive variety in what is basically like a couple hours drive. Yeah.
That's kind of you hit the nail on the head there about what's so special about New Zealand, or one of the things, one of the many things. But there's so much variety of terrain. It's also a relatively small place, isn't it? A small island.
Yeah,
So, like you say, you can be riding something completely different day to day and keep doing that for, yeah, like 12 days.
yeah.
Pretty freaking cool. Just for the listeners, CAP is Christchurch Adventure Park, and that's a chairlift accessible mountain bike park right in one of the main cities of New Zealand. Pretty freaking cool. And then, given that accessibility, we're often guiding people who are just fresh off a plane. It's their first day in New Zealand. They've come from all these different places in the world. So I wanted to ask you, what's the number one skill you find yourself teaching those who tour with you? Think of maybe like the potential guests we've got on our list for our upcoming trip, that kind of strong intermediate to advanced rider that hasn't been to New Zealand on a bike before.
I think kind of starting in with the basics a little bit of, we're not teaching people from there, but it's kind of like, we're all excited, we've all just landed, but let's take a minute to be like, we've got 12 days of riding. So it's almost like a mix of like, let's get back to basics a little bit, but also, let's ride a little conservatively, trail choice, like picking your line and just going a little bit, not getting overexcited, shall we say, when we first arrive, I think is something I kind of say like, hey, we've got 12 days of this. It's a lot of riding. So it's like, let's take a minute and not go too wild right off the bat, but also just be like, you're going to be riding trails you've never ridden every single day. So that idea of sort of like line choice and decision making, you need to have that sort of in your mind, because you're riding everything blind, basically. Like, obviously we'll talk through like, oh, this is what's coming up, but in reality, you'll have never ridden any of these trails before, to the guest, that is, obviously. But yeah, so I think that's something that's definitely like, oh yeah, let's take a minute, let's have a think, get your mindset dialed in of like, okay, we're on-site riding every single day.
I think it's fantastic. Like, start with those foundations and strengthen those, because yeah, anyone that's been riding for a while knows that there's no limit to how good our position and balance can be. There's no limit to how good our terrain awareness, our trail scanning can be, or our brake modulation. All of these things can keep getting better and better. And really, that's what's going to give us that strong base to support some of the more advanced skill sets and some of the more advanced terrain that we find ourselves in as we kind of journey down the Southern Alps. And there's more and more bike parks, there's bigger and bigger mountains, longer and longer days of riding. So
it does progress well. Like, that trip is sort of, it progresses as you go. So like you say, it gets bigger, steeper, and yeah, in some ways like slightly more gnarly as we go, depending on what we're riding. But yeah, like, it definitely has that. And I think after that road trip I did in Canada before just after I met you, when you're riding new trails every single day, like how that changes your wiring in your head of like riding blind trails all like day after day after day, it just makes your riding so much better. But it really changes your mindset of like, oh, I don't know every single corner of like, oh, I'm gonna do this or that. You're like, your reaction speed and stuff really changes. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like when we're riding trails, we know it's so easy to kind of, be stopping and looking at things. And that can also be the case when we're riding trails blind. But there is kind of a level to it, isn't there, when we do develop a certain amount of skills and trust in ourselves to be able to trust that we've got what it takes to handle whatever's coming up, and kind of drop into that state of flow where we're completely in the present, scanning what's coming up, planning, executing in the moment, and just taking it corner by corner, root garden by root garden.
Yeah.
It's a fun place, hey? So kind of talking a little bit more there about the mental side of things. I'm curious, you've been doing this for a while now, both professionally and for fun, and I guess would have experienced mental battles with everything from like, fatigue and these huge endurance missions you've done, but also more so in like unlocking new features and the actual skill set in a smaller zone and on smaller rides as well. So I'm curious, thinking about the mental skills, are there any strategies for working with things like fear, doubt, or uncertainty that you've kind of developed along the way?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Like, I think we all have things that we're a bit more scared of than others. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. It's based on your experience. You know, if you've crashed on a lot of steep drops, you're going to be a lot less confident going into steep drops than you are if you're not particularly good at doing jumps or whatever. But I think having that experience of like, I've done this multiple times on slightly different terrain but similar, and having that awareness of like, I've done this before. And so that's kind of how I'll say it. It's just like, I sort of give myself this prep talk of like, you've done this or done similar a lot, so you don't need to worry about this one. And so again, this is particularly about like riding trails that you don't know particularly well. I think it's so interesting to be like, you've ridden this kind of trail before, you have this whole breadth of knowledge built into you. So just kind of trust yourself, like you have done this before, you know, with the exception being every now and again when you look at something you're like, oh, I'm not really feeling that. I also like to listen to that as well. And like, okay, have a little stop and think. Is like, are we feeling a little off today? You know, we feel a bit under the weather, a bit tired of, you know, we've had a big day of riding. Is there other stresses going on in the life? Like, have a little sort of a self-reflect, I find is quite useful. But generally, I like to listen to that. So if I do think like, oh, I'm not feeling that one today, I'm like, all right, we don't have to push it. You know, it's not urgent that we need to ride that particular feature today. But it's like, okay, have an assess what else is happening and then come back to it.
Yeah, I love that. It's so good to be able to remind ourselves about, almost like I consider it like a mental library of similar features, similar trails, similar skills I've used before. And to be able to remind myself that like, yeah, I've done the work, I deserve to be here. And to lean on that state of self-trust is what gives me the confidence to try new things and continue to build that self-trust and confidence. But also, like you said, there is that intuition there, and that's really important to listen to. I love that you made the point that, you know, some days are better than others. Some days we have more capacity for stress and challenge. Other days we're better to maybe use the ride as more of like a recovery ride, both mentally and physically. That's what's going to allow us to recoup, to maybe take on more challenges the next ride or the next day. So I guess the question becomes for riders wondering, like, when do we listen to that voice that's maybe saying, no, not today? And when do we listen to that voice that's like, yeah, you've got this, you can do this?
I think the one I like to use is this idea of like, what other stuff is happening? You know, like, if you just moved house or you changed job or you've had a bad night's sleep or, you know, you've just gotten over a cold or whatever it might be. These are all valid reasons. Like, you've only got so much stress you can fit in your little bucket of stress before it starts to overflow, and then it's going to affect other things. And so, like, if you have just changed job, moved house, you've just moved to Canada, you're jet lagged, you know, you're riding trails you've never ridden before. I jumped on some blue trails. I was like, man, these blue trails are hard in Canada. What is going on? And then I had a bit of assessment. It's like, you're super jet lagged. You've just got on a new bike. You're riding trails you've never ridden before. You're like a little bit sick after the flight. Yeah, you're probably not going to be at top performance here. And then like a week later, I rode it. I was like, oh, actually, this is fine and amazing. But I think, yeah, having that sort of honest reflection of what other things are happening, like, did you just have a crash and you're like, oh no, I'm good, I'm all good, and you're like, no, like, your adrenaline's going to be through the roof. There's lots of other things happening here. I think that's where you're like, okay, let's have a bit of an honest assessment of how our mental game is playing at the moment.
Yeah, it's a really, really sound approach. And I think it's so easy to kind of let our mountain biking exist in its own separate container and be like, you know, I rode this on another ride, so now I'm capable of this, and kind of expect ourselves to be able to ride at that level all the time.
Exactly. And every day you're like, oh, I rode a black tech run yesterday, I can ride a black tech run today. It's just like, well, not necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes there's no rational or logical explanation to it. but it's just like, I'm not feeling it today.
Yeah.
I find though your approach there of like taking stock, I almost try and do it like before my ride. Say I'm doing a bike check, I'm pumping up my tires, lubing my chain, checking the bolts, whatever. I try and check myself as well and be like, right, what are we feeling today? Like, what's my intention for today's ride? Whether it's just have fun, unwind, or maybe it is to go out and challenge myself or practice something or ride a new trail, ride with new people, whatever it is. Do
And
that
that
little
changes as well. Like, you can get out there as well. You're like, oh, actually, maybe this isn't as hard charging as I thought it was going to be. I'm like, I'm going to wind it down. And then vice versa, you know, you meet some friends, you're like, all right, yeah, this party train's going a little bit. Like, I'm feeling good. Let's get involved.
Right. Yeah, it's such a good point. Hey, like leaving the door open to curiosity as well, I find is really important. Because if we do say, hey, I'm just super overwhelmed, I've been burnt out, I've got this, and this going on. Today I'm just riding really easy trails. We're kind of close that door and that's fixed. That's what we're doing. Whereas I try and keep it open. Say, you know, I'm not feeling that great right now. So I'm going to go out for a bit of a chill ride, see what happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes, as you know, we're halfway through that ride and it's like, I'm feeling good. I'm centered. I'm feeling the grip. The trails are awesome today. I've been able to maybe let go of a bit of that other stuff from work or whatever it was on the climb up. Just met Buddy, wants to go for another lap. I'm feeling good. It's like, oh, cool. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Other times it might be the opposite. It's like I come out here for a ride to wind down and now I feel more exhausted than when I started.
Yeah.
Might pivot my plans a little bit and just take it easy, come back out another day. Good to take stock. You got anything, like you were kind of talking about some things you maybe say to yourself in terms of like, hey, you've done the work, you've written similar things. Have you got any cues or words or things you will say to yourself? Say when you're approaching a feature, it's like that final moment before you drop in. Anything you'll say to yourself to kind of keep focused and on track?
I kind of go back to that. It's on the PMBIA sort of path work, but sort of the point of commitment. And so I'll look at something and be like, okay, once I get to here, I have to be committed. So before I get to that stage, so for example, going into, there's a rock feature here on my local trail, where once you come into it, there's a point where you're like, okay, once you get onto that rock, you need to be fully committed by this point. Before you get to that, you can still brake and you can still stop without there going to be any issues. But once you're on that rock, you're committed. And so as I come up to it, I say to myself, that's the point of commitment. And even just that, like, I don't even need to have to think about anything after that. Just that idea of like, there's my point of commitment. From there, we're committed. And even that, it just gets me in the headspace of like, all right, focus starts like here and it like peaks at that point of commitment. And we should be fully focused there. And even that, just getting that headspace of like, that's the point. And you're just like, okay, cool. That's what we got to do, what we got to do. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. Coming in with a plan and almost just, verbally acknowledging that that's the point of commitment, but also acknowledging the level of commitment too, because I feel like there's times when we can tell ourselves like, right, I'm going to do this. And it's kind of that cordial commitment where we'll still pull the brakes right at the point of commitment or have that hesitation in the back of our mind. Whereas for a lot of things, and it can even be as simple as like a technical corner on a climb trail or, holding a section of off-camber routes, holding your line across that. If we're not at like that full commitment, often that's what's holding us back. It might not be the technical skill set. It might actually be just committing going from point A to point B through that point of commitment, as you say, through the hard bit.
Yeah, yeah. And like you say, you just like keep going, keep committing, keep focusing. And it's sort of like, I kind of picture it as like a point, sort of get wider, you get more and more focused until you're like, right, here's the point of, I'm like fully focused here. And you kind of have to stretch yourself a little bit to like, okay, yeah, we got to keep committing, yeah.
And that can be quite intense, both mentally and physically. It requires a lot from us. I'm curious what you do. Say we've got a lot of trails like this in Squamish, and I know there's a lot in the South Island of New Zealand where there might be a point in the trail like that does require a lot of commitment, say a hard bit, and then another bit, and another bit, and another bit. What do you do in between the hard bits?
Oh, so this is quite a good one. I got this from actually from rock climbing, but having physical, I guess cues actually is a good word that you used, cues. And so like in between, I'd be like, all right, drop the heels, drop the shoulders. You know, like I get very tense up in the neck when I'm like, ugh, you know, focused.
Mm.
And I'm like, all right, we've done that. Exhale, drop those shoulders, and that kind of like that physical idea of like. And in rock climbing, you do the same thing. It's like, okay, we've done the hard move. You're okay. Drop your heels, exhale,
Mm.
and it just kind of resets you a little bit, as opposed to like, oh, gripped, oh, gripped again.
I love that. It's so cool. There's so much to learn from other sports, isn't there, that can come across into our mountain biking. But it's such a key part if we forget to actually look for the easy bits and, like you say, have that cue of physically resetting, exhaling, which also calms our brain and our nervous system as well. If we don't do that, it's kind of like this compounding like situation where our nervous system is activating, it's ramping up, and then we ramp up some more and some more. And it's pretty like easy to let ourselves get physically and mentally kind of out of control where we feel like we're a bit of a passenger, just holding on and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Whereas if we can find those micro 1 or 2 bike length spots where the trail is slightly less intense, physically, mentally reset each time, we
Yeah.
can maintain composure, feel far more in control when we get to the end.
I think that description of like a passenger just sort of rattling down definitely describes my early mountain biking. And so you're just like, oh, okay, now I've got some skill to sort of be a bit more active, like having control of the bike a bit more now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I'm always embarrassed to tell this story, but no shame. When I was in my first mountain bike lesson, I remember my instructor we were hooning down a gravel road there in Rotorua, and he said, right, show me your body position for a hard section of trail. And cocky 18-year-old Jake thought, yeah, I've got this, let's go. And I'm hanging out off the back of my bike, backseat passenger, thinking, yeah, nailed it. And he's just like, yep, we've got some work to do. Boy, did I learn that day. Anyway, getting back to New Zealand, we've kind of chatted a little bit already just in your intro, like what makes New Zealand so special. There's so many more reasons as well. We kind of talked about the variety of terrain, how well connected it is in terms of hitting lots of different spots all in one like 10 or 11-day journey. I wanted to hone in on Kiwi culture because I know it's it's unique there, isn't it? And you've, I guess, been an outsider, but now I think it's safe to say we can call you a Kiwi with the amount of time you've spent there guiding and immersing yourself in the local culture. How would you describe the mountain biking culture in New Zealand?
It's the mountain bike culture. Yeah, it's interesting when it's there's some interesting parts of Kiwi culture. It's very we just do it. You know, it's sort of it's a very hands-on, a lot of personal responsibility, but very much like a can-do attitude. And so as far as the mountain bike culture, I feel there's a lot of everyone's very laid back, everyone's very friendly across the whole of New Zealand. But in the mountain bike culture, I think there's probably a stronger, like, oh, we'll help build the trails, or we'll help maintain, or just generally helping out overall is a big part of the culture. I'd actually love to know the number of like trail volunteers per rider compared to other places in the world, because just from like anecdotally, I reckon we probably have a lot more of that volunteer for the amount of bikers we have, you know, because obviously we don't have a huge population. We do have a pretty massive trail network, mostly run by volunteers. So that culture of sort of like, oh, we're laid back, but also it's just like that needs fixing. All right, we'll just get in and get it done. But it's just so the Kiwi culture, like every Kiwi I know is just like, oh yeah, I'll give that a go. And you're just like, what? And it's like, yeah, I'll try and fix the car. It's like, you did before? No, but I'll work it out.
It's such a laid back vibe, isn't it? And yeah, like you say, such a cool community where people reminds me like maybe like it's a very core mountain biking scene in the sense that people aren't too worried about like what you're riding. It's more like, are you having fun?
Yeah,
Oh, you don't have mountain bike shorts. Who cares? Wear jeans. Oh, you don't have a new bike. Doesn't matter. Like, how do you like riding that one?
Yeah.
So I love
Yeah,
that.
there's like no pretension about it. Yeah, for sure.
While also being, one of the best places to ride a mountain bike in the world. So it's like got this unassuming kind of like low key attitude about this like trails and networks that are just spectacular. Like
Yeah, maybe that's
breathtaking
why we're
view
so
after
casual about it.
breathtaking view.
We got great trails. We're not doesn't matter what we're wearing. We know we got great trails.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's fantastic. And then like talk about why guided expeditions unlock a completely different experience.
Oh, I'll tell you a great example of this actually, and this is from the guide perspective. It's quite interesting. So obviously we see there's a lot that happens in the background that the riders, the customers probably have no idea about. And I think a real change in my guiding was realizing like we're here to give them a good trip, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the trip that is written down on the itinerary, if you know what I mean. We had last year, one of our trips, we had a fire at the, actually, this maybe 2 years ago now, at the Christchurch Adventure Park had caught fire. So okay, that was off the table. So we were like, okay, we'll go ride somewhere else. And then the same day, because of the strong winds that caused the fire, had caused an issue somewhere else because of such strong winds. So we're like, okay, so we can't go there. And so we're just pulling out these plan Bs, plan C, plan D. And our riders were like, we are so glad that we're with you guys because like, oh, if the wind's blowing from the north here, this place will be in the lee of the wind, so we can go ride that trail. Or like, oh, I know a spot which will be over here. It's like, this will be great. We can shuttle at this part. And having that sort of local knowledge of so many trails of like, oh, I know a spot. I like, oh, yeah, here's a good one for you. I think that's what brings that experience of like, oh, we've obviously got the logistics, we've got all the backup if anything does go wrong, but it's like we know all these other options. And I think that's one of the key points of versus just going and doing it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, isn't it? Like we've obviously got a sample 12-day itinerary and kind of like, hey, this is kind of the vibe and what we're thinking of doing. But like you say, we've also got like 2 or 3 other options for every day on that trip and every place we go as well.
Yeah.
As like a just in case, and like this would be cool as well. I think that was probably one of the most challenging things, wasn't it? In the back end of like, it wasn't like where should we go? It was like what places can we leave off this because it's going to be 30 days of mountain biking non-stop if we go.
It just gets longer and longer. It's like, oh, we've got to miss that, but you're like, phew. Yeah, it's kind of brutal. You're just like, oh no, I didn't quite make the cut.
Yeah, so that's a big thing about like what you pay for in a guided expedition like this is you pay for us to cherry pick the very best of the very best, and not just like in New Zealand, but in New Zealand on that particular day.
That's the difference. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. Like, it's a little bit wet. You're like, oh, actually, those trails, because we have a lot of clay in some areas as well. And you're just like, oh, actually, that's not going to be ideal. But if we go here in the trees, that's going to be perfect. It's going to be like having loam, or if the wind's blowing from that direction, actually, here's going to be way better. Yeah.
I know from experience, New Zealand's kind of known as, like you say, quite unassuming. It's one of those places where often people will overestimate their skills and abilities and underestimate like how challenging the terrain can be. So I'm curious, like how often do you get guests on your trips that maybe like want to go and ride particular trail centers, particular bike parks, and then get there and are like, oh, this is more than I expected?
It's pretty common. Like, I think there's things in New Zealand like the exposure sometimes as well is more than people like. I remember listening to a podcast with the fellas from Scotland, and it's just like, I don't think people necessarily think of it in New Zealand, but it's like we have big mountain days here. Like, you need to be packing, even in the Craigie Burns, you need to be packing for like, you need extra layers, you need like, this is big mountain riding almost. And it's very remote. And I think people don't realize that. They're like, oh, it's just, 2 hours from Christchurch. Like, 2 hours from Christchurch is, you're in the middle of the Southern Alps. Like you can, like you are remote in 2 hours from Christchurch. It's not just like, oh, we're just down the road from the city. Like, no, like things are pretty different out here. And I think that catches people unaware of like, oh wow, like this is remote. We haven't seen anyone all day. I'm like, yep, that's why we've got PLBs. That's why we've got, first aid kits. Like we've got all these systems in play. And I think even that sort of remoteness catches people off sometimes of just like, oh, whoa, like we're in the middle of nowhere. Like, yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it's one thing being able to perform a skill and focus in a front country or a bike park environment. But sometimes, yeah, you add, maybe sideways rain or some wind, touch wood, hopefully we don't get too much bad weather. But you add like an element like that, and that can be that mental interference as well that can take away from our ability to actually be calm and access the skills we have. So that's one of the things I'm really excited for with this expedition is putting a crew together that's like-minded and like-skilled, but then also giving them all the tools I wish I had when I first started exploring New Zealand.
Yeah.
So, getting started working on the mental skill set, the mental strategies before the trip, getting started with the remote coaching and maybe ironing out any of those bad habits or answering any of those questions riders have. So that when we get there on our first few days to the Christchurch Adventure Park, we can start that skill building on trail and then get out into those remote, rugged environments and be able to truly experience them and have fun with them rather than be like, oh, man, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah. And yeah, I think having that mindset of just like, oh, okay, this is how this is going to be, as opposed to just rocking up like, whoa, this isn't what I anticipated. I think it's going to make a big difference. Yeah.
Sometimes that's the most important part of the trips too, isn't it? It's like the dinner the night before when you're having a group chat about, hey, this is what we're aiming for tomorrow. This is kind of what to expect. This is what to bring in your packs. Like, let's go and be prepared and have an awesome day. Sometimes that can just put you at ease and kind of set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
Versus getting out of the car tired and cranky and trying to figure it out as you go. So we've been chatting a little bit about kind of rugged remote trails, things like exposure. I don't want to scare people away. These are all awesome challenges and really rewarding stuff when we conquer it and ride it. As we do progress south down the Southern Alps, whether you're on our expedition or you're just doing a trip of your own, it's natural you're going to arrive at some more built up bike park centers and really kind of well-maintained, well-buffed trails. I wanted to talk a bit about some of the highlights there. We're obviously going to be arriving in a beautiful place called Wanaka, which is kind of halfway through our trip. We've got a strategic rest day there to rest the legs. There's so many other things people can do there. I'm curious from a local's perspective, we've got a rest day, we're not riding our mountain bike, or maybe we are if we're keeners, but what should we do then?
Oh, Wanaka's, it's such a good spot to have that rest day because it's so picturesque, and it's not the super touristy spot either. So it's it has a nice local vibe to it. But man, you can do anything you want there. Like you can go kayaking, you can go out in the lake. The lake's right there as well. So we'll just sort of like walking out the hotel, you're like, oh, an amazing scenic lake. Some great walking in the area, really good food as well. I think it's 3 breweries in town.
Yeah, speak language.
Now we go. Ignore all that other stuff. Just those 3 breweries. Yeah, it's a great spot. And then even there, like there's biking to be done there as well. If you want something to explore some of the trails around there as well, there's so much. You could spend 4 or 5 days just in Wanaka alone. And it's just everywhere you look. New Zealand's a little bit like that. Generally, is everywhere you look, the scenery is just breathtaking. But Wanaka is, it's definitely one of those where you're right by the lake and you're just like, this is wild. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely one of those. This is freaking cool moments, hey? And speaking of trails, we are going to be doing a day of riding there after our rest day. We're going to be riding Glendu Bay.
Yeah, so good.
Talking about it, it's so good, isn't it? It's a privately owned bike park, isn't it? That was developed, I want to say, over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, maybe slightly longer, but no, that could be right. Yeah, it's certainly kicked off in the last 2, 3. It's just like, oh yeah, you get a pass now for the ski field and the bike park. You're just like, this is my year. Like, we're sorted. I'm going to ski, and you can do both in the same day as well at certain points as well. But yeah, amazing amazing trails, and yeah, like you say, like purpose-built, well-groomed trails. And then you sometimes forget, like, oh, this trail's so fun. And you're like, actually, if you look up, you're like, this is an amazing view as well. Like, this is crazy scenic.
Right, it is. Yeah, it is that kind of terrain, whether you're riding the flow stuff or the tech there, it is terrain that really rewards good trail scanning and keeping your eyes on the task at hand. But like you say, sometimes those two things kind of compete of like, oh, look at the lake, look at the Alps, beautiful views. Oh crap, I've got a jump coming up.
Yeah. When the climb, you're like, wow, this is
Mm.
cool. It's like, I didn't see this on the way down. You're like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very, very impressed by the build quality there. And you know what? When I was there, I was pedaling and the climb trail was beautiful. I think the top's called the Eagle's Nest all the way around there.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it was like you're out in the sun. It was quite a, just exhausting climb, rewarding but exhausting. And it was one of those places where I got to the bottom and I was like, yeah, energy's back up, adrenaline. That was so much fun. I want to do it again.
yeah.
And I don't know if I just have it in my legs. So I'm really stoked on this trip where we were able to put together those ATV shuttles.
Oh, game changer. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
it is slightly I think it's maybe slightly designed more with e-bikes in mind, because the climb trail is slightly longer than, a normal bike sort of network like that, where it would be pedal assisted. But yeah, having those ATV as well, you're just like, you're going to get so many more laps in, because yeah, that particularly up to Eagle's Nest, it is a bit of a brute of a climb for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, excited to do it the right way around this time with an awesome crew. And then kind of next stop on the list I wanted to talk about was the Cardrona bike park.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think start by telling us, what is Peak to Pub and why should that be on every mountain biker's bucket list?
Oh, it kind of reminds me of in Squamish, is it Elfin Lakes, coming down from there, where it's sort of like,
Yeah, you got
but
Meadows of the Grizzly.
Meadow the Grizzly, yeah, coming down from there. Just to do a ride like that, where you're like, oh, we're going to start at the top of a mountain, at the top of a ski field, basically, or mountain bike park, and ride all the way down into the valley. It's long day of, well, a long trail, basically, of, can't remember how long it is. Was it like
I have some notes.
Yeah, what's the
And
distance?
some very
It's
fond
long.
memories. It's about 7K and 1,100 meters of elevation.
Huge, yeah.
That's on the back of a bike park day too. We've obviously been cutting laps at the bike park all
Yeah.
day as well. It's the highest bike park in New Zealand. So again, really epic views, everything from flow, big jumps to some beautiful techie stuff as well. And it's kind of unique, isn't it? There's not necessarily like big trees or anything. In some of these alpine places in New Zealand, there's these like golden tussocks that mix in with this stark blue sky.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it feels to me like I'm riding on a different planet. Just like,
Oh, yeah. And that alpine, and yeah, we've got that dark schist rock as well, which is it looks like quite jagged, and you're just like, oh, whoa, this is cool. And you're doing rock walls and stuff off it. It's really, really cool. But yeah, I didn't realize it was that long. The beats, it's massive. Yeah, it feels long. I didn't realize it was that long.
yeah. And then there's obviously that Cardrona pub at the bottom, hence the name Peak to Pub. It's going to be really special. I've stopped in there, got a drink and stuff from time to time, but we're actually going to be staying right there at the pub. So it's like you finish this big, long, epic day. Legs are obviously pretty tired. Maybe grab a cold drink or a beer from the pub, and it's like, we don't have to go anywhere. I think that's going to be one of the best parts. And then from there, it's just bike park on bike park, isn't it? We've got Coronet Peak. That's another place where we're going to be doing a whole epic day of bike park, of shuttles, and then finishing with another big alpine lap all the way down to the valley floor. And I believe that one's similar elevation, around 1,100 meters, and maybe a bit longer. Yeah. But some epic
to do that, like we started here and finished here on a mountain bike route. It's not like there's no gravel road or anything like that. It's like, this is mountain bike trail the whole way. There's no like, oh, it's cool, we started here, but we rode a fire road halfway down. It's like, no, this is all bike trail for both of them. It's just like bike trail all the way down. It's so good.
That's what's special, isn't it? It gets you into valleys and into places. You can see views that you wouldn't otherwise see if you weren't on a mountain bike.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, super cool stuff. And I do get like the question a lot from people of like, oh, like, I don't like, that sounds like a lot of riding. It's maybe more elevation than I do in a whole month, like depending on where their home trails are. On a trip like this, what are some tips to help manage endurance and make sure that we can not only ride day after day and have fun, but also make sure you can keep riding the next day and the next day?
Oh, I think, I mean, depending what you ride previously, like a little bit of training is going to be needed because it is big days for sure. But this coming back to that sort of being a little bit more conservative. So you're not just like, if you're doing laps in the bike park or whatever, if you are starting to feel worn out, it's like you need to be a little bit more on to, oh, I need more food. I need to stay warm. I need to like sun cream, like things like that. You just need to be looking after that a little bit more. I think all of us guides will be kind of like, oh, hey, we're 40 minutes in. Do you want some food? Like, so it's like, oh no, I ate breakfast. I'm like, yeah, but you kind of want to keep on top of this. Like, and I think with so much riding, if you get into that debt, it's a little harder to come back from it. So yeah, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some stretching going on after the end of each day, and yeah, just making sure we're sort of staying on top of like the basics of eating, drinking, and yeah, making sure we're getting that sleep and rest as well. But yeah, it's going to be a big trip for sure. Like it's going to be great. But I think yeah, that's why we've got that day in the middle as well. To if you need a breather halfway through, yeah, we have that day in Wanaka.
Exactly, yeah. And we've planned it out intentionally, haven't we? It's not only like, hey, Lewis, if we're going to make the ultimate mountain bike trip that we want to go on, where do we go? But it's also like, how do we take advantage of things like shuttles, bike park passes, ATVs, all of these tools we can use to help us make the most of our endurance and be able to maximize the fun riding versus just, wearing ourselves out, pedaling up places where we really don't have to. So I think, like you say, it's maybe funny as an adult. Sometimes we do need to be told to take a break or maybe finish when we're like at 80% rather than 110%. But it can really be helpful just to have that experienced kind of outside person just saying, hey, you should probably have something to eat. Or hey, have you considered maybe just sitting this next lap out so that you've got the power to be able to come out and have an awesome day again tomorrow?
Yeah. And I think that is the difference as well. Even if we were shuttling every single climb, which obviously we're not, but we have an awful lot of shuttles, 12 days regardless, is you're going to be feeling it. Like even 12 days of just doing descents, like you're going to be getting tired after that. So I think, yeah, having that sort of like, we'll go to 80% capacity is something I'll be mentioning an awful lot of. Even if like day one, it's just like, let's ride at 80% of what we can do. Let's leave a little bit left in the tank because that little bit left is going to help us for tomorrow for that recovery. Yeah.
Yeah, really wise words.
Yeah.
And kind of getting towards the end of our trip, we're obviously going to be bike parks and bike parks and bike parks. We've got the uplifts basically everywhere they make sense. And Queenstown's definitely one of those places. Riders listening probably heard of Queenstown. Just give us the locals' perspective. Like, why should we ride mountain bikes in Queenstown and what's that all about?
So I've always said like Queenstown is like the Whistler, but like 5-10 years behind. So it has this growing mountain bike network. And it's just more and more like it just grows and grows and grows. Like it's crazy. But yeah, you get there and it's like super scenic, absolutely stunning spot. All this sort of hustle and bustle of what's happening in the town. But then you get up into the trails and yeah, we've got a lap through McNeely Gnarly. Like riding through that beech forest there is just phenomenal. When you've been doing like epic bike park laps all day, it's going to be quite a nice change of just like, okay, yeah, we've been hitting laps, we've been seeing other people on the trail, and you'll head into McNeely Gnarly, like literally just off the side of the bike park, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, beech forest, like I hear anybody. It just goes quiet. It just has this amazing riding through the beech forest there, and yeah, so like Queenstown again, it's one of those places. I think when people think New Zealand, they think probably Rotorua, and they think Queenstown. So absolutely must see, and people will realize like, oh, this is why,
Yeah. And it's pretty special, isn't it? Being able to start your trip in one place and 12 days later be thousands of kilometers away at a different place, and to be able to end the trip there as well.
Yeah.
There's no repeating. It's like every day is a new day, every trail is a new ride. Much like you said, from a guiding perspective, one of the things you love most about your job is the variation, and like no 2 days are the same. It's kind of similar for our guests on these experiences. No 2 days are the same, and every day is new terrain unfolding, new challenges. But also, we've recognized the fact that it can really be nice to go back and revisit some things we've liked the first day. So in Queenstown, we've included 2 days at the Skyline or Ben Lomond trails there at the bike park, which really gives us the ability to kind of test the waters the first day, go and suss different trails out, different styles of riding, apply some of the things we've been working on through our coaching sessions. And then that last day, which is going to be day 12, is just like final lap celebration, go back and revisit everything that's good.
Yeah.
And I also love to touch on too with guests of, we're going to have the ability to split into two groups where we need to as well, having the two guides. So it's not like if half the group wants to ride flow and half the group wants to ride tech, it's not like we have to compromise. Get to do both. So really, really excited to have all of the structure and all the support in place. I feel like it's going to be everything I've always wanted in an expedition for myself, but never had. And being able to share that experience with 10 other amazing riders is just going to be truly incredible.
Well, that's it. When I saw the itinerary, I was just like, oh, that's like all killer, no filler. I was just like, oh, as you get riding down, you're like, oh, glad I'm going there. You're like, oh, nice. Yeah. And like you said, I think to have the 2 days, we don't have that feeling of like, oh, I'm riding blind every single day. It's just all of a sudden you're like, okay, cool. Like I can sort of focus more on some other parts of the riding as well as the experiencing new things. Like, actually, I really enjoyed that trail. It'd be cool to do like a few laps on that to, like say, just as a celebratory, like that was really good. Like that was my favorite one we did yesterday. Let's go ride that again,
Yeah, it's definitely something you want to avoid on a trip like this, isn't it? Like any feelings of FOMO or like there's a rush.
Yeah.
You want it to feel spacious. Like you can just like relax into the experience, enjoy the trails, and know that there's going to be more than enough time to ride everything you desire to ride.
Yeah.
And if like skills and confidence aren't quite there, to know that you have the resources to be able to potentially get them there and not have to leave anything on the table, any stone unturned.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing of doing a guided trip is when I did, that ride in Canada, we did a 6-week road trip after living in Squamish for the summer. And all the research in the world, you're like, oh yeah, like this is a 5-star trail on Trail Forts, like this is going to be great. And then you talk to the locals, like, oh no, you only do half of that trail. Then you do that, and then you drop into this one, or like, oh no, you don't climb that thing which says climb trail. You climb up the road, and then I was like, I didn't know all this. And so it's so good, like doing a guided trip where we're like, we know these trails. So it's like, oh no, like these are the best trails. So you don't have that idea of like, oh, we went to Queenstown and we only rode AB trail, or like this trail, that trail, that trail. Yeah. Now we rode like all the best ones. And if someone says like, oh, hey, listen, I want to ride more flow today, you're like, oh, cool. Let me show you where the best place is for that. Like, oh, I'd like to try this. Like, yeah, no worries. Like we know it well. So I think that's obviously very biased, but that's why I think guided trips is sort of the future. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we get to see the results firsthand, don't we? So it's pretty easy to become biased when you see just how stoked people, how different the experience can be compared to the DIY disasters that we often see out there, and maybe went on a couple of ourselves when we're younger and less wise. As we wind down here, I wanted to ask, what does a perfect ride look like for you and why?
Oh, I've been thinking about this recently. I was because I've been riding all these trails, like, okay, which is the best one? And just based on the trail itself, I like beautiful scenery. I think that's really like a great point, but engaging enough as well. Like it doesn't have to be super difficult, but when a trail is engaging enough that you're like, I am either in flow state or like I'm engaged enough that I'm like really interested in what I'm doing here, is super important regardless of the grade of the trail. Like it doesn't have to be gnarly the whole time. I'm like, this is cool. Like, I'm having to think, I'm like working, things like that. So throwing those two in and it being like, oh yeah, this is cool. Throw in with that who you're riding with, and you're like, oh, okay, this is like the extra, bit of, cherry on the top here. And then at the end of the day of like, okay, now we're in a cool place and we're having a beer or having a drink and some like good food. You're like, we've nailed this. Do you know what I mean? So like a good day, you're like, oh man, this is a good burger. Like, oh yeah, this is the best burger in town. You're like, oh sweet. Oh yeah, sweet. Like also this is like the best brewery in town. Like, oh, amazing. Like, oh, you can't forget, like this is the place that you get like a donut from. You're like, oh, it's just, it's just like on top. You're like, this is all killer. Like this is exactly what I was after.
Yeah, it's like just when it can't get any better, it keeps getting better as well.
Yeah.
Love it, man. Couldn't have described a more perfect ride, and I'm excited for lots of those with you February next year. Still got a little bit of lead time, but that's okay. I'm getting excited.
Yeah.
Everyone's building their skills remotely and working towards what's going to be a amazing trip.
Yeah.
Leaving the listeners here with one thing. What's the biggest takeaway you hope listeners remember and maybe think about on their next ride?
That's a good one. I think a good one just for riding consistently a lot. Like we ride, what do you reckon, 200 days a year? More? I have no idea. 300 days a year? Who knows?
It'd be easier to count the rest days than the riding.
Yeah, exactly. But I think having that idea and mindset of just like, not every day has to be the most, I've learned something new today. I think just getting out and riding and be like, hey, this is the day I just went out for a ride and I still enjoyed it is more important than like, oh, I progressed. I did that feature, which I didn't do yesterday. It's not like you're going to compound every single day of like, oh, I've actively made an improvement compared to yesterday. Just being out on your bike is adding to that. Even if it doesn't feel like it at the time. Like you can have a bad day of like, oh, I'm not really feeling it today, but it's still better to have that day. Having a bad day on the bike, I guess, is better than having a day not on the bike. So you might as well go for the ride anyway.
Well said. It's kind of like compound interest, isn't it? Sometimes we don't notice the results over the short term. But when you've got an entire season or you've got 12 days with like 9 days on the bike in a row with an insane amount of elevation drop every day, it's like, yeah, you get to the end of that experience and you're going to start noticing some differences. So sometimes it's a matter of, like you say, just dropping into the process and letting it be fun rather than be consistently like attached to the outcomes and getting better and progressing all of the time.
And I think that'll be interesting as well. Is something I quite often bring up is like on the last day, it's just like, hey, do you remember that first day? And like see that comparison from a week ago, or in our case, it'll be like 12 days ago or 10, whatever it'll be. And just like, oh yeah, like I feel way better on the bike. I'm like, yeah, because you just spent 12 days straight riding, or, essentially that riding every day. You're like, oh wow. For a lot of people who don't ride every day, that alone, they'll be like, crazy. Yeah, like I feel so much more confident. I feel way more connected with the bike. Yeah, huge difference.
I love this, mate. Hey, if people want to learn more about you and maybe follow along with some of your Kiwi adventures, where can they find you online?
So adventurefuel.org is my website. So we've got bikepacking and mountain bike trips on there. And then adventurefuel.bike on Instagram as well. So I've just been filming a bit more of my rides over the winter. Obviously coming into winter now. So yeah, those two is probably the main ones.
Yeah, fantastic. And if people want to check out the expedition, they can do so via the link in the show notes or on our website. And if you want to check out our trip partners, who Lewis also guides for, adventuresouth.co.nz. Does that sound right?
Should be, yeah. We'll double check that one, but yeah, I think .co.nz would make sense. Yeah.
We'll have a link down in the show notes as well. Lewis, thanks so much for your time here today. It's been great to dive inside your mind, learn a bit more about guiding in New Zealand. And thanks for our listeners as well for following along for the journey. If you've got any questions about our expedition or about Lewis, feel free to reach out to either of us on any of the channels. Cheers.